The other side of that, Morocco was the first country, in case you didn't know, to recognize the U.S. after we declared independence from England. So when looking at these labs, I'll get back on topic now. Looking at these labs, what we found is that in the various labs you move into, you'll always see people doing casework. That's the number one thing everyone's doing. Occasionally we'll go into laboratories where they're doing casework and they're also providing training, possibly to their staff, possibly to others. And in a fewer number of laboratories, we'll see research capabilities in the laboratory. So it's kind of a pecking order. Everyone's doing casework. A fewer number of these national laboratories now are doing casework, and even lower percentage of them are doing casework, research, and training. When you go in to look at how they're doing casework, it's easy to kind of look at the metrics for measuring how well they're doing it. So the assessments that we do are in detail enough to give us information on how to set up a forensic program to enhance their technical capabilities. We do not initially go in and do gap analysis to ISO 17025, but we find out that you can get a good handle looking at kind of where they are on that continuum between having very little documentation or a very minimum quality assurance program, all the way to having full-blown ISO accreditation. So casework is in assessing casework in a laboratory, it's fairly easy to do. Training the same way. You can look at a training program in one of these national laboratories and you get a handle for where they are on, again, a continuum of their training initiatives and activities by looking at their people, how well trained they are, what credentials they hold, what certifications, and that'll give you some kind of a guideline as to where these laboratories are on this continuum. The research area, actually, there's a mechanism to evaluate their capabilities in this area. Most of the labs are doing no research, unfortunately, but the ones that are, you can evaluate their capabilities just by looking at their scientific publications. You can look at their validation work in the laboratory and get a good handle for where they are in their ability to do research. Now, why is research important to us? Well, in developing laboratories, which is what we do for a business, we found that research is really the driver. If you have a laboratory that has research capabilities, they're capable of reading the scientific literature, reproducing work other people have done, validating that work, training their people on it, and implementing it in casework. So for us, for a laboratory to be sustainable, it needs to have research capabilities. So that's why we have put a focus on it. It's why, if we're honest and want to work ourselves out of the lab development, the forensic lab development business, we get everyone to the point where they don't need us to come in and provide training and technical assistance. And so that's what we're trying to do. So how do you enhance a lab's capability in the forensic area? Two examples that we'll talk about today. One is Colombia. We've been working in Colombia about 20 years now. We've been focusing on some unique research in the forensic anthropology area for about the last 5-6 years. We are working in close collaboration with Tom Holland's lab in Hawaii. And we've set up what we call a dig school in Colombia, where through mock graves we train investigators and prosecutors and forensic scientists on how to excavate grave sites, collect evidence for criminal prosecutions, as well as identification of the remains. We've also now working with the prosecutor's office in Colombia and are finishing up a custom-built single-purpose laboratory that is going to be for human identification, and it's going to be staffed by pathologists, anthropologists, DNA scientist, a host of others. And their sole function is to look at remains and process them to assist the Colombians in their efforts to identify a lot of the dead over the last 40 years in these graves. In doing this work over the last 4 or 5 years, we have one of our staff down there, Dr. DeGangi, has actually put together the first research course that we've taught on how to do research. So Colombia was just a tremendous laboratory waiting to be opened up from a perspective of research. So we've set this up. Liz has done a great job on the course. I think it's evidenced by Colombians at this meeting are presenting 11 papers and publications, presentations at this meeting on their research. The second country, which I think is a success story as far as research is concerned, is Uzbekistan. We have been working there probably the last 5 years in developing their quality assurance, ISO, toxicology. Ashraf, also sitting in the front row, has done a stellar job in working with them. And over a 4-year period, she got them to the point that they put on their own workshop, 2-day workshop, where they were 25 oral presentations and 9 posters presented. There's a large number of the people from Uzbekistan who are now members of the International Forensic Toxicology group, and it's just been a tremendous success story of a laboratory that 5 years ago they didn't know how to spell research, and now they're just doing a stellar job in their country and moving that forward. The other things we've done to support research efforts is have people attend conferences and meetings like this where they get exposure on the national and international level to others who are doing research and presenting their results, and they get to see what that looks like. Some of our countries, the people have never had an opportunity to meet and talk with others outside their country. So in many ways, it's an idea of showing them what in fact is out there and what the opportunities are. Realizing the significance of this, about 4 years ago, I decided in Colombia that I was going to try to encourage them not only to attend the conference, because everyone wanted to go to New Orleans, but to suggest that they needed to submit a publication, a presentation, an abstract, and have it accepted. And if they did, these were the Colombians, and if they did, then I would pay their way, ICITAP would pay their way, not me personally, ICITAP would pay their way to New Orleans. And a dozen of them took me up on that. Now, we consider that encouragement in the Department of Justice. It's not a bribe. We don't use that word. But it was very effective. The people really got into making the presentations, and that's why I think we've got so many here again at this meeting. Last year, various people were working with in different countries. In 2011, the conferences scientists we're working with presented 44 posters or presentations, which I don't think is a bad accomplishment. And this year, as I've said, there's 12. Last year, we sent people to 11 conferences around the world. Total of 291 people attended these. Again, it's a great opportunity to see what others are doing, to kind of benchmark yourself with other laboratories. Last year at the Academy at this meeting, we had 72 people. This year we've got about 114, I hope. Don't think we've lost anyone yet. And it's cost us over $500,000 to do this, but I think it's well worth the effort based upon the return we're getting. Quality of the research being done in the laboratories, I think is illustrated by the award won by Dr. Maria Dolores last year at the international meeting, in which she was recognized by the International Rehabilitation Council for torture victims for the quality of the presentation she made. I think that's outstanding.